You're tuned into the Writing Community Chat Show, the live streaming YouTube podcast that brings you the stories of authors, screenwriters, and more. Indie or established, this show's for the community, and we invite you to be a part of it. Head to the writingcommunitychatshow.com for more info. The WCCS. Together as one, we get it done.
Hello and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Hello everybody and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. We are back with another great guest for you, and it's Friday once again, which is always a big bonus for us. How has your week been? Let us know in the comments, and I will catch up with Mr. Hooley right now and find out how his week has been. Chris, how are you doing?
Yeah, it's all good. It's we've had a lot of books sent to us this week, so I'm drowning in books at the moment, which is always a good thing. Yeah, some very special books as well.
Yeah, we have had a lot of books. One actually, we need to sort of promote this more on socials. But did one of your books arrive in an amazing golden package?
Got it right.
Oh,
here,
you've got it. Yes, amazing.
Yeah,
how amazing is that? I was shocked when that came through the post.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a little element of being a bit kinky. So when it was left on my doorstep, I was like, I need to bring that in as quickly as possible.
Yeah, indeed.
But yeah, nice shiny envelope. Yeah.
Yes, it is. So we've had a lot of books. I tweeted one today, a little chapter one sort of picture. And by the way, that was great for the podcast listeners. Sorry, guys. We will try and put a tweet out or a post out about that. Yes, there you go. That book. I had a little picture of that book that is called Wolf. That's a little hint as who we've got coming on the show very soon, and I'm very excited about that. Which I've started reading already. But there's lots of books coming in, which is good, which means there's lots more guests coming up for you guys. And what's really good about that is that everybody has a different story. Everybody has their own sort of writing tips and writing styles you can learn from. And we get to learn about their story and their journey, which is what the best part is. And you're in the chat. It's been a good week. I'm glad you have had a good week. Hello to you, Ross and Chris, in the chat as well. Please do get involved and chat to each other in the chat as well. That's what it's there for.
Yeah. Always makes me smile. Obviously, we see Anya a lot. Thank you so much for watching the show. But when Uncle Ross pops in.
Uncle Ross.
Yeah, it's always a good sign. There's going to be some good conversation in that chat. I did order a book this week, Agate, which is solely set in Wales.
Ooh.
I don't know if you ever heard of this. Quite an older book.
Please try and pronounce what that says.
Oh, I can't. I'm going to say The Last Llanelli Train.
Llanelli Train. It's Llanelli.
Yeah. There's no T there, mate. It's two L's.
Llanelli.
Llanelli.
Yep.
Llanelli Train. Yeah. So it's all set in Wales, that book. I'm into my sort of detective fiction at the minute, / comedic detective fiction. So yeah, I picked that one up, and I'm glad you put me right on the pronunciation of that, because I would have said Llanelli.
Yes, indeed. In terms of my detective writing this week, Chris, it's been really bad. And I'm really kind of, when you're really into a story that you're writing and you want to get it done, it's just been a chaotic, hectic week with lots of stuff going on. And I had one attempt this week to try and do a bit of writing. And I went back and did a bit of editing, finishing up the last chapter. And that's as far as I got. So I didn't really get much done. So next week, I'm definitely going to get on that writing sort of wagon, and this weekend as well. Ross says, "Oh no, am I the weird uncle? Let Agate with the pronunciation battle for once. Win the pronunciation battle for once." Yeah, normally I'm messing things up. Uncle Ross, yes.
The reason you're Uncle Ross, mate, is because Agate met a real person in real life who knew him, and he said, "Oh, no, I know you." And turns out the connection was through the Writing Community Chat Show, and he was actually related to our Uncle Ross. And I think it was because he was his uncle. So you will forever be known as Uncle Ross to us now.
Indeed. He said, yeah, it makes sense, which is a very strange conversation. When the random man walked up to me and said, I know you. I thought, ooh, where's this going? But yes, it was actually really kind of nice to have that conversation. And when he dropped the name Ross Young, I thought, oh, okay, this kind of makes a bit of sense. Okay, with that in mind, we're going to get a guest on because we want to talk to her about her amazing career. And I'm just not getting distracted by the chat there. So let me introduce her. And like I said, please do get involved in the chat and ask questions throughout. And of course, at the end of the show, we will definitely have a section where you can put more relevant questions in. But if you want to react to the ongoing conversation, put the questions in then. So are you ready, Chris?
I'm ready.
You're ready. Hey, so tonight we're thrilled to welcome a guest whose work is bringing a touch of magic back into the world. Ciara Blume is a multi-award winning and best-selling author whose Natural Magic series has captivated readers with over 2 million page reads and more than 1,000 glowing reviews in just months. A certified California naturalist with a creative writing degree from Johns Hopkins, Ciara blends humor, heart, and enchantment in a cozy fantasy series, reminding us that wonder isn't just for children, and that it's never too late to reclaim creativity at midlife. So please welcome to the show, Ciara Blume. Hello, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing really good. I'm thrilled to be here. I love hearing your accents. It's just such a treat for me.
Oh, thank you so much. As I mentioned before the show started, for the ones that are watching for the podcasts, I do apologize. I was instantly taken back by that background, ladies and gentlemen, which is actually real. That is stunning.
Well, I'm very fortunate to live here on the coast. I know you mentioned I am a naturalist. I'm a certified California naturalist. And I just recently moved into this house, which has been like a dream. We're renting for a couple of years here. And I call it the beach house because it really is literally a beach house. But I get to see all of the things that I write about and that I've studied. I see whales and I see dolphins. And when it's more clear, I can see Catalina Island, in the background in the sunsets. It's kind of a dream.
It's amazing. And I can see some benches outside that overlook that amazing scenery.
Yes.
Please tell me you get out there with your laptop and you write out on that.
I do go out there and write quite often. I watch the sunset every night, a little fire pit going.
Beautiful.
It's very inspirational. And my next door neighbor is also a nonfiction best-selling author. So when I rented the house, I was like, oh, this place has good vibes for writing.
Amazing. Well, one of the questions I always ask at the start of the show is, what's the kind of environment like where you live in terms of connecting with other authors? And that's instantly the answer to that. So apart from your neighbor, do you kind of mingle with anyone else in terms of the writing world?
I do. There's a lot of writers in my area. And I was like the kid in high school who sat at like a different lunch table every day. I couldn't pick a group. And I'm kind of like that here in Southern California because I have friends who are fantasy writers. I have friends who are spicy romance writers, thriller writers, friends who write sweet Christian romance. I do sit at every lunch table, but there's so many writers in the area. And I've been really fortunate to connect with a lot of them and go to events with them. And I try and host events when I can too. I do a big book and cookie exchange every year. And we also have a free little library. Do you have little free libraries there as well?
Do we? Chris is nodding, and I shook my head.
Yeah, there's some that like people do them, don't they? They post, they create like little post box type things, and they put books in there that people can take and stuff. We've seen a few. I'm pretty sure we saw one at Harrogate.
Yeah, so we have this thing where people just put like a box in front of their house with books, and I had to make mine all magical and whimsical because I'm by the beach, so mine is all mermaid themed. Nice. But I have a little free mermaid library in front of my house, and I love to put particularly indie authors, like authors I've met and authors that I know. I love to put their books in it and do like a little photo shoot. And
have you had any sort of very cool interactions based on the fact that that's outside your house?
Yes, I do. And people leave the nicest notes. I mean, so, the world is rough. The world is awful these days. And so this is me trying to be like magical and whimsical. And people really do appreciate it. They leave me the sweetest note. Somebody I might cry, but somebody actually left me a note last week that said they discovered the little library and they were like, this is like finding hope on a corner.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it was just so sweet.
Yeah. Ross said this one on his street. And Halo says, are you near San Diego? I had a burger there that rewrote my soul.
I am not far from San Diego. I'm actually doing a book signing in San Diego tomorrow. So if you want to share like where the burger place was, I like burgers. I'd love to try a burger that will rewrite my soul.
I love burgers too. Anya says, I love that. The world needs more kindness and whimsy. I don't get that word. What is that?
Whimsy. It's like fun, magical, unexpected, delightful touches.
That does sound good. Yeah, brilliant. So your writing journey has been quite interesting, that the fact you've gone from your career into writing, and it's quite open there in your website and everything, that's kind of a midlife transition for you. So can you kind of let us know what the spark was in the first place for you to say writing is something I want to do now? So
I mean, I think I was born a writer. I can't remember a time in my life that I wasn't writing. And it was always like, what I was supposed to do. I was going to grow up and I was going to be a best-selling novelist. That was just, like my destiny. And I went to this very, very prestigious writing program at Johns Hopkins, which was like, at the time I was there, one of the top programs in the country. And I studied under like John Barth and Joyce Carol Oates and Edwin Albee and all these very prestigious writers. And I had writing beat out of my soul. It was like me and a few other writers, some of whom are very famous now, but you couldn't have happy endings. You had to be very dark and twisty and serious and cynical. And that was what true art was about and what good writing was. And my professors, when I wrote happy endings, were like, you should go into advertising. Maybe marketing would be better for you. And I should have stood up to them. I should have had more confidence. But I did that. I did go into marketing and advertising. I had a long career, but it was never fulfilling. And I always felt like, but one of these days I'm going to write a book and that's what I'm meant to do. And so I would do things like start a clothing company or, start a tech company, and anything but the writing of the book, because I think when you've had it in your soul for that long, you become more and more afraid of failure. And it's okay to do all these other creative things and maybe not succeed at them because you're not feeling at that one thing that you have always wanted to do and you thought you were meant to do. And then it was only during the pandemic that I was like, okay, it's time.
What's amazing about that is the fact that you had the confidence and ability then to create all these other things yourself when, the real passion was there, which would have taken as much as that sort of courage and sort of determination to do, but you could do it with other things you weren't as passionate about with it on a personal level.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes easier though when the risks aren't as high, and it's not as close to your soul. You're like, what do I have to lose? But by the time I was in my early 40s, I was a multipreneur. I had done so many different things. I had been a consultant for many years, so all these things that I did, and I was fortunate. I was successful at a lot of them. But again, they weren't fulfilling. So, something about, I think the pandemic shook us all up, and something about that. I just was like, sitting in my house going, I don't like where I live because it wasn't this. And it was a nice house, but I didn't get to see the beach every day. And I don't like what I do every day because I was a tech CEO then still, and did not enjoy it at all. And so I just decided to quit everything and just only do writing and learn as much as I could.
So when you ruminate then on an idea for a novel for so long, and like you said, you described it as like being attached to your soul, how do you eventually make that step and that transition into putting the words on the page and getting the book put together?
Well, ruminating, I always have 3 or 4 book ideas you know, I never run out of ideas. If anything, it's the opposite. It's kind of like there's too much food in the fridge and I will never eat it all before it spoils. It's frustrating. So I kind of have a lot of background rumination going on, and it's more a matter of clearing the time and the space to let one idea come forward and be the idea for a time. The books that I'm writing right now were in my mind for probably a couple of years before I put pen to paper, and they changed. And then I'm not a pantser or a plotter. I'm a plantser. People say, you know, I plot and then I put everything down and then something totally different comes out. And oftentimes, like in the case with Wanderlust Essentials, the book that you have up, characters will literally just show up on the page as I'm writing them. I don't know how this happens, but they'll be fully formed. They'll be like, their bags are packed. They're like reporting for duty. They have whole personalities and backstories. And I'm like, where did you come from?
So with the dream, sorry,
Chris, I was going to say, Ross says writing programs suck the joy out of writing. We've heard that before. And I've talked about it on the show about doing a master's degree and all that type of stuff and just losing the love for writing. So the question I'm going to ask there is, did that program make you a better writer, in your opinion?
100%. I mean, you know, I'm pretty cocky when it comes to craft because of that writing program. It may have sucked all of the joy out of, you know, my process and taken the wind out of my sails, but I still know how to be a writer. You know, when I sat down and decided, okay, I'm going to write some books, I did read some books on craft. I'm not like, you know, we're learning all of our lives, but the things that I was learning about were, you know, how to format a book and, you know, how to use KDP and how to do marketing. I wasn't, you know, studying craft when I first started writing books, and that was a huge advantage. So as dreadful and painful of a time as it was, having a degree in creative writing certainly has served me well. It served me well also, you know, doing a lot of advertising, marketing. I did a lot of freelance writing as well, and it served me for all of that. I know how to show, not tell, and all the things.
Yeah, I was going to say, with the dream there of being a bestseller, which is in your mind from a young age, did you have any sort of idea that your novels would have such great reception when you released them finally?
No, I mean, honestly, I had it in my head, like so many, especially my age, middle age, that, you know, you had to be trad published. And so that was part of my holdup because, you know, I knew that I was going to spend a long time writing a book, and then I was going to have to find an agent, and then I was going to have to go through the querying process, and that was going to take years and years. And that, you know, you have to write this perfect book before you can even get started. And it was really only because I had friends who were indie published, who were enjoying a lot of success, that I thought, well, you know what, I'm just going to sit down and give it a try. I'm going to learn all I can. And so when I pictured myself as a successful writer, the movie didn't play out the way that it actually ended up happening. And I still think, I mean, I still have that. I'd love to be like, you know, in every bookstore and like a successful trad author at some point, or hybrid. At this point, I don't want to give up indie. I'll never give up indie.
I mean, what do you think the benefits of being in indie are in comparison then? Because we do know there is more control there, but do you think there's more to it than that?
Well, control would be number one on my list too. I am a control freak, you know, all the years that I worked in advertising and marketing, and I, you know, and I worked as a designer, and I, you know, could control the look of things and the feel of things and the timing of things and the message of things. That's a lot to give up.
Yeah.
When you hand your book to somebody else and they're designing the cover and they're telling you when it's coming out and writing the marketing messages, you know, I don't know that I could comfortably do that. So that's huge. But also the creative freedom and the ability to just make your own timeline and, you know, change genres, try something new, do something experimental. It's wonderful. being inundated. It's great that we can do that, and we can be professionals while doing that.
Yeah, I was going to say, before we started the show, we had a brief conversation that I keep coming back to, because you mentioned a little bit about having a spiritual encounter, let's say, that inspired you to sort of get writing and get going again, sort of thing. So can you tell us a little bit about that, because I'm itching to hear more?
Well, I'm totally a woo person. Let me just out myself. I'm very woo. I have many magical beliefs. They've served me well, and I'm not about to give them up. But for a while there, I had a podcast, and it's still up if you look for it. It's called Supernatural Travel Tales. And I had been traveling through Europe with my 2 daughters for a while, and my older daughter was constantly making fun of me because I always thought things were haunted, and I always wanted to go on ghost tours. And we were in Krakow, Poland, and we stayed at an Airbnb that was extremely haunted. And I knew it was haunted the minute I walked in there. I felt a presence, but I was writing an article and I was on a deadline. And I just, and so mean, I said to my daughters, I was like, you take this room, knowing they don't believe in ghosts. You take this room. Look, that they're exactly the same. I'll take the other one. And they ended up all night with some kind of a presence in the room. It was life-changing for my older daughter, who will never make fun of me ever again. I mean, like, long story short, there is a sobbing woman in the room. And they were trapped, and my other daughter started mumbling in another language and chanting things. It was just bizarre. If you listen to you can hear the whole episode on the now I'm advertising my podcast.
No, don't worry about that. I'm going to check that out for sure.
But yeah, I then, after having this whole experience, I went on to interview other people. And my favorite was people that had no belief in the supernatural whatsoever, until they happened to go on some trip somewhere and just have these like completely mind-blowing, life-changing experiences that altered them forever. That's my favorite kind of a story to capture.
So when you encounter and experience something like that, how do you then go about like putting that on the page, I suppose? Because obviously, if you've had something that just shatters your world sort of illusion about what reality is and, what could potentially exist, how do you then harness that to bring it to the page?
Well, I harness my beliefs and my experiences in small ways. It's not like I sit down and I write like, this is my, like the whole experience as a story. Like one thing that I actually have been thinking about that, because there's a lot of ghosts in the book that I'm writing right now. And I've had throughout my life a kind of recurring experience when spirits appear to me. It sounds weird when I say that, because it's funny, because I'll say it and I laugh at myself, and yet I do believe it. But one thing that they seem to do is I'll be walking in a shopping mall or down a busy city street or somewhere where there's people, and I'll look up and I'll see the person that is haunting me, but it won't be them. It'll be like their face on somebody else's face. And if you've ever just been in a crowd and thought you saw somebody that has passed away, and you'll just dismiss it. That's what it looked a little like, it was the light, it was the angle, I must be thinking of them. But then 5 minutes later, you'll forget that it happened, and you'll see that person again. And then you'll see that person again. By the third time, I know that spirit is there trying to tell me something. I'm getting goosebumps. Every time it happens, I know, like 3 times in a row, they're trying to tell me something and I should listen. And so I'm putting that in a book. I'm putting that experience of seeing somebody's face on somebody else in a book.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I mean, what is there a situation where you see that face on a different person over and over and you need to talk to that person?
I mean, there was in my life with my father-in-law, who passed away very suddenly and had a message for me to share. And I had to temper it, because my husband is not the hugest believer. He's an engineer. He's extremely logical, but even he at this point believes me. And this is part of why. because at the time I kept seeing my father-in-law and I knew he was trying to send me a message for my husband. And I said to him, look, if you want me to give him a message, you're going to have to give me something incontrovertible. You're going to have to tell me something that like I couldn't possibly know that I can tell him so he'll listen to this message. And I said, give me the password to your, they were trying to get into his accounts and his computer. And I said, give me one of the passwords. And so I still can't believe this happened, but I like was looking at something, and so often happens when I'm shopping. I don't know why. It happens like in thrift stores and when I'm shopping. And I looked at a t-shirt and it was like something military and it said troop on it. And so I had the word troop in my head, and then I had a number. And I called my husband who was back home and I said, it's troop 1875. I forget what the number was, but like your father told me this means something. It might have something to do with the passwords. And this is proof that I'm really getting a message from him. And my husband and his mother both going like, who did you marry? She's crazy. But it turned out that it was his brother's childhood Boy Scout troop number. And it was the combination for all of their locks.
Oh my.
For their safes. And there's just like no way that I would know his brother's, when he was 8 years old, his Cub Scout troop or whatever, and that they'd use that for their combination. He'd use that for the combination for several safes and locks. So I kind of freaked myself out on that one that happened. And I learned to just try and stay open, because it's happened since. Like now when I have that feeling and that like message, and I know people are going to think I'm a weirdo and laugh at me, I just say it anyway, because oftentimes it means something to somebody.
Yeah.
That's and incredible. I do use that in my books, like especially the book that I'm working on right now has a lot of references to ghosts. And
well, we obviously the supernatural element is there, but then where does magic come in? Why have you got such a fascination for magic as well?
I just want magic to be real. I mean, I want everything to make sense, and I want the world to be abundant, and I kind of have to like cling to that, particularly when things get dark and there's so much hate in the world and so much division in the world. I want that hope. So I like to believe in magic. I don't know that everything happens for a reason, but I do think that our thoughts affect reality. I've just been reading too about like the new quantum theories they're discovering that the future can influence the past. I have weird theories personally about time and about how things happen in parallel. So I love magic. I love the idea of it. I love superstitions. I've always been, a student of and a fan of different symbolism and lore, and it's fun.
Nice. So everything I've ever read that's had magic has just complicated the sort of already existing problems. So what are the benefits of magic then, in your opinion? And as a writer, like how do you utilize it to make it something good rather than just something that's just going to add on to the sort of problems that we already have?
Well, in my world, in the natural magic world, magic is mostly a force of good. My magical system is simpler than most. It's pretty broad. But there are complications of magic used improperly. Magic can be twisted. There's dark magic, and there's synthetic magic, which is like kind of a little bit like AI, actually, where people try and amalgamate all of the natural magic of the world and create something synthetic to come close to it. And it ends up being quite toxic.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah, when writers like create rules and sort of the way that their world works, like I'm fascinated by how they put that sort of thing together in terms of going, oh, this rule fits there, and then we need this rule. And because I kind of did it myself, and I remember writing, I was like halfway through and I was like, oh, I really need this thing to be able to happen. And I was like, you're writing it. You literally, if you want to bring that thing in, you do it, mate, because you can create the rules in fiction.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, the danger with magical systems is you can easily paint yourself into a corner, which is why mine are pretty broad and pretty simple. My books take place in the real world, but not necessarily the world that we live in. You know, it is the world we live in, but I've purposely left out cell phones and computers and a lot of things that are that they're too grounded in the present. You know, it's sort of like a alternative version of the world that we live in, but very real and very familiar. And I don't get into a lot of like lore and you know, battles and high fantasy type stuff. It's very light on all of that. It's just accepted that there's magic in the world and there's really a system of basically the forces are abundance versus scarcity.
Well, at the time that we're at, what we're going to do is play a little advert for the KDP Storyteller Award. And then when we come back, you can tell us all about your latest book and we'll get into some questions about that. So here is an advert that if you are indie, it is something you definitely need to take attention to, be aware of. And it ends the end of this month, which is only about 10 days away or 9 days away. So if you want to enter this competition, you need to do it very soon. And here is the information about that. Hey writers, what if Hit and Publish could earn you a massive £20,000?
Oh, yeah, imagine. Well, you don't need to imagine because that's exactly what's on offer with Amazon's Kindle Storyteller Award 2025. This amazing literary prize is back for its 9th year and it's open to anyone who self-publishes a book like Kindle Direct Publishing in any genre.
Any genre. Yeah, whether you've written your first or your 10th novel, it doesn't matter. If it's unpublished and written in English, then you can enter that award with a chance of winning.
Yeah, and it's really easy to enter. So just publish your book through Kindle Direct Publishing between the 1st of May and the 31st of August and make sure it's enrolled in KDP Select.
Yep, I think you'd be absolutely mad not to, as a £20,000 prize would help any author boost their career massively. And our previous guest and last year's winner, JD Kirk, said that it took his career to the next level after winning that award and taking it home.
Yeah, and it did. These books are everywhere. So in order to enter, head to amazon.co.uk/storyteller to find out more. The Kindle Storyteller Award is open now. So publish, enter, and get your story out there.
Yeah, we'll support you all the way. You know we will do that. So we'll leave you with this. Good luck. The WCCS, together as one, we get it done. There you go, guys. Please do consider that. And it is something you definitely need to look into if you publish through Amazon already. And it's a very simple way of entering. It's simply a keyword. All you have to do is put it in when you upload your manuscript. Job done. So you have, you're releasing your 3rd book in the Natural Magic series. And that is coming out in October, is it?
October 1st.
October 1st. And that's the Magpie Oracle. So could you please tell us all about that? And let everyone know what it's all about.
So all of my books are standalone in this series, although they're kind of interconnected. The first one was just an introduction to the world, and it brought everyone to the world of natural magic. The last one had time travel, and they went all over the place. And this one is probably the heaviest and the deepest because I really take on the subject of memory. Mm-hmm. And sort of the veil between life and death. And there is a lot of the book takes place in a magical gin night market that appears in different locations around the world once a month, always on the crescent moon, and always in somewhat of a liminal space, somewhere that's a little bit woo, which, you know, my travel background and going to all of these woo places has served me well because I'm revisiting some of them in this book. So it starts out at the Tunnel of Love in the Ukraine, which is a portion of train tracks that are completely hidden by a tunnel of birch trees. And the gin market opening is there at midnight on the crescent moon. And a character goes into the night market in the hopes of reuniting with her dead mother, who has recently passed away from dementia. And she doesn't know her mother's last wishes, so she wants to dine with her mother at the Afterlife Cafe, which exists in the night market.
Oh.
And she goes to meet her mother, and her mother still doesn't remember anything. Anyway, that's how it kicks off. And it takes place in and out of this night market. There's dragons in this one. There's, a lot of heavier themes with life and death, and where do your memories go after you've passed away, after nobody remembers something anymore, and how memory is attached to objects. Another feature of this night market is that the stalls are full of items that are all the lost things of the world. So when something's gone missing or somebody's forgotten about something, it magically shows up in the night market.
Incredible. Ross says, this sounds brilliant. Afterlife for the win, all in capitals and exclamation marks. The first thing to note is that market is an incredible setting that I don't think I've ever heard before. So where did that come from?
It just showed up. I don't know. I wish that like I said, I've traveled a lot, and I know where it came from. I spent a lot of time thrifting. And thrifting is kind of like my secret sauce for writing. Whenever I'm stuck on something, I go to a flea market or like a large thrift store, and I just sort through things. And I swear, maybe it's my woo side, but I will just touch something and get an idea. The answer will come to me. So I think a lot about, also, my parents are older. My dad passed away a few years ago. My mom's, hanging in there, but she's not doing great. Anyway, I think about, all of the things I've inherited and, what happens to all of these memories. So it's very much on my mind, these topics.
Yeah. And you obviously mentioned this is a deepest story in the three of the books. So why do you think that is? I
kind of think the last book in a series is always the most heavy, the most serious. It's kind of like you had it's still fun. I mean, I have, porters that open, fey porters that open up portals between places. And I have literary squirrels that are full of themselves and have book clubs so they can dress up to match their books. I have ridiculous things in my books that are very fun and funny, but I still delve into these kind of heavier subjects. And it makes sense that the third one is kind of nearing the end of the series and coming to the death, coming to the end, although it probably won't be the end. I'll probably continue on at some point.
That was going to be my question in terms of obviously if you've got a successful series and, it's got good readership behind it, and obviously you're in control of it as well. What is the sort of decision to go 3 and I'm done? I'm going to go somewhere else, rather than stick with it.
So, I have a plan. I may go on with this particular series that's very lighthearted. The characters in Wanderlust Essentials, it focuses on this Fey porter who can open up portals between spaces, and it turns out he learns he can also time travel. And he partners up with a witch who is like an Indiana Jones archaeologist, arcane artifact hunter. So the two of them pair up to find something missing. I think if there is a fourth book in the series, I'm going to go back to them and send them back to Alexandria to rescue things from the library in Alexandria before it burns. Now I have this idea in my head. I'll probably do it at some point. But what I've done in this book, I seeded a character that is in the gin night market for a series that I've also had in my head for a very long time, who's an ancient jinn. And I have a multi-book idea kind of mapped out for him. And that one's a little bit darker, a little bit more serious. So
no happy endings in.
Yeah. I know you mentioned that the series is kind of not thought out already, but you've got 3 books there. You might add a 4th. Was it always the intention to have a series with this?
Not really. I mean, I did have the idea of having a series. I just didn't think it would end up being what it is. And that's the beauty that I feel like my characters take me on a ride often.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we're coming to the sort of closing section of the podcast now, and so we've got like 20 minutes left. So if people want to send their questions into the chat, obviously please do that, and we'll ask them during the sort of latter part of the show. But we have a few staple questions as well, so I'm going to ask one of those. And the first is, if you could take any character from fiction and make that character your own, which character would you choose, and what would you do with them?
This is the question I really had a hard time with. I feel like I already do that with every character that I read. I think that, I don't know, I can't pick just one. When I read books, I tend to rewrite characters and endings in my head. It's kind of a quirk of mine. I actually have a really hard time remembering books after I read them, because I rewrite them in my head as I go. I make the world into what I want it to be. It's kind of a blessing and a curse.
Brilliant. Yeah, it is tricky. If you could take the ending of anything, fictional, TV show, movie, or book, and change the ending to anything, what would that be?
I have several shows that have irked me with their endings in different genres. Like, I'm just going to start with Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, which was supposed to have a third season and did not. And I really didn't like the second season and the way it wrapped up. And I loved the character of Bart, who was like this assassin. She was just this like a hologram that was a random assassin. And I can't describe it, but it was just such a well-played part. And I'd love to bring her back.
Isn't it the most frustrating thing in the world, where you've got a series you're seriously into and they just decide not to carry it on?
Yeah, and on that note, another one was Sanditon, which is one of Jane Austen's last novel that she never finished. And yet they made it into a series. And so they made it into a series. In the first season, the romantic interest was Theo James, who, like, you know, I could watch anything with Theo James in it. He's amazing. But then they hired somebody to write the second season to finish her book, Jane Austen's novel. And they killed Theo James, and they like just gave her some other random love interest. And I'm like, you don't do that. You don't kill Theo James and make up some other love interest and finish a Jane Austen story. So I had so many problems with that particular thing. So yeah, I again, though, in my own head, I've already rewritten it how I wanted the ending to be, so it's all okay.
Yeah, I've not watched the Dirk Gently series. I've read the books, and obviously there's only a couple of them, so it does intrigue me. Is it very different, or?
It's different from the books. They've changed it. It was great, and I agree with Ross there. The first season was really, really good, and the second season totally jumped the shark. And I felt like they could have brought it back. I would have loved a third season. They had like the Rowdy Three, which was like a group of four tough guys. The Rowdy Three was actually four guys in a van that went around. Very whimsical. I really enjoyed it. My husband is a huge Douglas Adams fan, and so are my sons. So we all watched it together, and we were all disappointed when it ended.
Yeah, I mean, I love Douglas Adams as well, and I think I saw the adaptation advertised, and I was like, I don't know if I can watch it, because if it's not like the books, it'll annoy me, and if it is like the books, like, it'll probably just make me sad. So
it's definitely worth watching. It's kind of like, it is like it, but it's different stories. Like, it's not really an adaptation of Dirk Gently's story.
Yeah.
We've got some really good questions coming in. So again, guys, if you're watching, please just send those questions in. Well, I'll ask the first one. So, that disappeared, but it wasn't my initial first one. But question. And this made me laugh when I saw it, because I was like, I have no idea what this is. But what are your thoughts on Robert the Doll?
I don't know what's Robert the Doll.
I'm going to Google right now.
Yeah, the bit that made me laugh was I hesitate to even type his name, and that freaked me out. But also made me laugh. So yeah.
Oh, was that from Dirk Gently? I think Robert that was in the second season.
Robert the Doll is reportedly a haunted doll exhibited at the East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida, once owned by a painter, author, and Key West resident Robert Eugene Otto. So he's a haunted doll.
I do know this story. I do know the story. So like and somebody just recently died after dishonoring the doll or doing something with the doll, moving the doll. I forget what the story was.
It says, according to legend, the doll has supernatural abilities that allow it to move, change its facial expressions, and make giggling sounds, which sounds terrifying.
Wow. Okay, I this is part of my thing with my podcast too. Like, I really just don't delve into the horror stuff. Like, I just put up a wall. You know, I don't want to know about evil, dark spirits. I don't want to communicate with evil, dark spirits. Like, I'm just not going to go there. So my thoughts are, like, if there is a Robert the doll in my life or environment, I will be slamming the door, putting up a wall, and it won't be part of my life.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Halo's got a question here. So physically, do you feel more connected to new places or new people when you travel?
Do I feel more connected to new places?
Yeah, or new people. So are you enjoying the place or the people when you arrive?
Oh, do I enjoy the place or the people? I think it's always different, you know, it's really different. Sometimes I really connect with a place. There are places I've been, and I think everybody has this to some extent, where you're like, you feel like I could live here, or you feel like you have lived there at some point, you know, in a past life or something. You could really see yourself there. And then there's people that I've just encountered randomly over the years that I've connected with for no logical reason. You know, I met a famous painter in Jerusalem who does a lot of like street art, and I went to one of his events and I made friends with his mother for probably half an hour. We still stay in touch. Like, we just clicked. Like, there was just something like, I know her, you know, I know this person. It's really weird, but you know, every few months we message with each other, and it's like we've known each other all our lives. Why? I don't know. I don't know why that happens with some people, but it just does.
It's very strange, isn't it? And it's the same sort of argument when you meet someone, don't even meet them, but you instantly know you do not get on with that person. And there's just either a friction or a complete sort of familiarness about them. And it does happen with a lot of people. So yeah, I wonder if there is a reason behind that.
Maybe it's
I'm
energy.
open to all of it. I don't have answers. I'm just, you know, I'm just open.
Happened to me at Harrogate this year. Chris witnessed it all. But yeah, I met somebody and I was like, whoop, she does not like me. No reason whatsoever. But yeah, anyway, Ross has a great question. As you near the end of a series, are there ever things you wish you hadn't put into the books earlier, now that you're at this point?
No, but there's lots of things I wish I had put into the books, you know? I'm really good at like leaving myself, like writing things in that I don't know I need later, or like leaving myself breadcrumbs that end up coming in useful. So, there's lots of stuff for me to work with in future books that I sneak in there. My subconscious must be at work. But there's always more that I wish I'd put in. There's more things that I'm like, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah. I mean, you put dragons in this new book. So as a Welshman, dragons are something that I love. Why suddenly dragons in this one and not the others?
Well, there are dragons in the others, because in the first book, there is a character. She's a teenage girl, and she's a shifter, and she's kind of self-conscious because she hasn't really settled on what kind of shifter she is. And usually as a shifter, you're the same type of shifter as your parents, and her father is a stag shifter. Her mother was a caribou shifter. Her mother's absent, and she's just going through a rough time. And she turns out to be a dragon shifter, which is like, you know, some recessive, rare, unheard of thing. And so she was just one of my favorite characters in the first book. She's a main character in this third book, and she's kind of like on her journey to discover who and what she is, and that she's a dragon. And so I decided that there's really not very many dragons in the mortal world, which is part of why she's so rare and special. But there are dragons in the djinn world, in the night market world. And I kind of liked how djinn are made of smoke and fire. Dragons are very related to smoke and fire. So they're very much at the center of this djinn world. And they are the memory keepers, and they power the night market.
Mm.
So it's kind of a different version of dragons than people are used to.
Mm. Yeah, I was going to ask you a question then, based on there's a series that I love by C.K. McDowell, and we met him at Harrogate, and he has a character where he's just sort of breadcrumbing her sort of origin story through his novels. And when I met him, I sat him down and said, "Can you tell me? Do you know where this character is going? Because I need to know that you know that it's going in a certain direction, and you're going to give us some clarity at some point." So when you're writing a character that you know, oh, I'm going to develop this character, how do you get that balance right between bringing up new information in a novel, but not revealing everything in one book, and you sort of prolong it over a couple?
I mean, that's part of the art. It's like, how much am I going to reveal? I told you I seeded, my next series in this book that I'm writing right now. And there's a character, his name is Goldstone Lyons. That's actually an ancestor of mine from England, who I used the name. I really loved his name. I was like, oh, I'm going to use that name someday. So yeah, part of that book is going to be set in London. I spent quite a bit of time in London. My daughter went to UCL. So I spent some time there. But how much information do I give about Goldstone? I really just put in like one tantalizing story that was a whiff of his character and where that next series is going to go. And I left it at that, because I don't want it to take away from the story that I'm telling and the characters that I'm focusing on. But I want it to be more than just, he had brown hair. I want it to be something that people are like, oh, who's this? And they really want more information about him.
What a brilliant name that is.
Yeah, there's some great names knocking about, Chris. I know we were watching the football the other day, and there's a couple of good names in there as well.
They were, yeah.
But they're fun.
Yeah, I mine my ancestry and my family. Like, I feel like that's me honoring my ancestors. Maybe they'll smile down on me from somewhere.
That's a really nice thing to do, I think. But also, in terms of writing, Chris mentioned earlier, it's some people write magical stories really kind of complicated, and you've got a system where it's kind of really a simplistic way of transitioning it all together. What advice have you got for somebody who wants to start writing in a world that seems to be, I'm guessing, a much more difficult world to write in than most, have you got advice for them?
Okay, this is going to sound awful, but when in doubt, leave it out. If something is not important to the story that you're trying to tell and to that, the plot and the action, like, it may be super interesting and super cool, but just leave it out. It's only going to weigh you down, and you're going to, I think, regret it in the long run. Because when your story becomes too heavy in lore, readers don't have time, energy, and attention span to get into things. Like, save it for when you have a huge fan base and you want to write a side story, or you want to create, some additional product or story or thing that people are already into your world, and now they want to know the nitty gritty.
I think that's great advice, especially having the build up of the author base there, the fan base, because you're right in that sense that I have definitely been put off by certain complicated books at the start. But if you have that base there, then you can obviously drip it in later on, right? I think that's brilliant advice.
What's the best way then, again, after another sort of tip, what's the best way to introduce magic to the reader? Because a lot of books I read, you sort of discover how the magic works with the character as they're sort of moving along. And I don't necessarily think that's the best way a lot of the time, because like you said before about show not tell, it's like you are told, oh, this is how the magic works here. So what advice would you give to somebody for doing that?
I don't know that I have the best advice, but I do have a little hack a little thing that I did with my books that kind of feels like cheating, but it's not. And it's worked very well for me, is rather than try and explain and illustrate all of the magic of the world that I'm writing about, my books, each one has 3 character perspectives, which is more than some do, but I do have 3 main characters in each book. And I've given each of them a book about the world from sort of their perspective. So in the Mud Puddle Manual of Natural Magic, the first book in the series, there is an actual mud puddle manual of natural magic. And every chapter that starts with that character's stuff, there's a little tiny excerpt about the world of natural magic. And then for a witch, there is the Arcane Elite Handbook for Purity. So there's a little snippet from her book. And then for the man who's a shifter, there's the Gentleman Shifters, the Metamorphic Manual. It's kind of like a cheeky, how to be a gentleman thing for shifters. So I think dropping in sort of other books and other references and snippets and quotes from your world, people paint in a picture very quickly. And it's a way to sort of, I don't know, I feel like it's cheating, but I've done this with all my books now, and people love it. They love that they get that little glimpse and that little bit, and it's just enough for them to like understand the world and understand where the character is coming from.
Yeah, I love that idea. It's just like you said, a little glimpse, and then the sort of brain and imagination creates the rest of it. If you can get a quote from a book, you're like, oh, this book exists. What happens in it? Oh, I'm guessing this is part of the lore, or this is part of it, and the brain just starts to invent a lot. Yeah, that's a great tip.
And the more your books exist in someone else's mind, the more successful you are. I mean, it's great to share what's in your mind, but really what matters at the end of the day is what other people picture when they read it.
That's amazing. Yeah. So with the Magpie Oracle coming out in October, what would be next for you? Have you got a plan of what is going to come after that, or you just kind of see where this goes?
I have a couple of standalone books that I want to write that are a little bit different. So one involves Greek gods and Southern California and a Jane Austen novel. And the other one involves, a mashup of Love Island and the show Dead Like Me. So we'll see where those go.
Do you think that will be with your fan base now? Would you consider like a pen name for that? And because it's a different genre?
I'm on the fence about it. I might do like an initial and keep my initials and then go with it. But ultimately, my humor and my personality is going to be in anything that I write. So I don't like the idea of having a lot of pen names.
Heather said, Ciara was me as Ciara. That was what spit that out. Ciara, that was me as well. My ancestry began some story ideas, but I absolutely got bogged down with the research and putting everything in.
I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah. So before we go, where can everyone find you on social media? Where can they buy your books? Where can they, stalk your writing? All those things.
So I'm on Amazon, Barnes & Noble in the United States. I do have my own website. It's shop.ciarablume.com. And that I do worldwide shipping, so it's not a problem. I'm also on Amazon UK. I'm really easy to find anywhere on social media. I'm at Ciara Blume Author everywhere. So it's the same.
Yeah, brilliant. Like I said, guys, at the start of the show, during the show, the Amazon KDP Storyteller Award is something please do go and look into. You got only a couple of weeks till that's finished, and it's a massive prize. And we've had guests on who have won that prize. It's changed their career. So have a look into that. But also, please go and support Ciara, buy her books, and just give her a follow on socials. And, share it around this show as well. Give it a like, leave some comments if you want to. And if you have follow-up questions, please do send them in. I'm sure we can pass them on. And thank you so much for tuning into the show and for leaving all your great questions. So Ciara, for me, you've been a great guest with a brilliant story. I love all your stories about your sort of paranormal encounters and your magic world. So thank you so much for joining me, Ennis.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and just remind us all again what that podcast is so we can all go over and listen to that as well.
Supernatural travel tales.
Yes.
Definitely does sound right up our street. You never know. After the show, me and Chris might jump on a live and listen to a bit of that, because it's a fantastic story. And we'd love to hear a little bit more of it. But it's been fantastic chatting to you. We've loved every minute. And yeah, more people need to write magic and create their own little free libraries outside the houses. If everyone could do that, that'd be great.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody. And please stay safe. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you all very soon. Bye-bye from us.